Hi everybody, this is Lex with another episode of our Azure on Air podcast. Today I have with me Henri Clavo from Virginia in the United States. Welcome to the channel, Henry. I've seen that you are really into data for the last couple of years. Can you maybe tell a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you so much, Lex. I'm happy to be here. Yes, I started my career in healthcare and mat assets, and then progressed to my career in risk analytics to Accenture Federal Service to do government service at the CFPB. And now I started my own company called Orlando Insight Group that specializes in consulting, risk management, hybrid cloud implementation, and data strategy. So, working in data, I worked on large scale data migrations of famous companies in California. A good example is Adobe and clients for IBM as well.
Nice, nice. Sounds interesting. Oh, okay. So you also started your career in healthcare. That's nice. Yeah. When was that? Around what time?
So I started my career in 2017, and essentially coming in, working with healthcare data, essentially data that hospitals outsource, and our job was to essentially collect the information, work with the client, and making sure that the process and their data follows a specific format, and then work with a team in SSIS to package these or program these processes to ingest this data in an SFTP server and load them into a SQL Server database. At the time, it was on-prem, so everything was C sharp and programming them into packages within the Microsoft Suite. But now anybody can go in and set up a process and be able to ingest data
Yeah,
with just a click of a button now. But
yeah.
that was a different time back then.
It is. It is. Yeah. But that's also what makes it interesting, right? To see how everything has, evolved from on-premise to the cloud, including all those, database offerings in the current data platform, like for example in Azure Cloud, also, of course. And your topic is about migrating and optimizing data pipelines from Snowflake to Azure Databricks. Yeah. How did you come to the topic?
Yes, this is a topic that I worked a couple years ago for a company. So they needed expertise to essentially move data from Snowflake to Databricks. So during that time, there wasn't expertise to be able to manage that. But within our presentation, I will talk about how I did it, what tools that I use, and how I set up the process so it could be automated. Uh, for our demo purposes, I'll go through the notebook, but within the process, I'll talk about what needs to be set up within Databricks to automate the process once the data is ingested for the history load within Snowflake, and then I'll go into details on what is happening and what is happening and what's being done in the background in a tool like Databricks.
Okay.
And Snowflake will be the source data, and Databricks will be the tool used to do the ETL within the notebook.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah, I would say the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Lex. So yeah, so essentially, this talk will dive specifically into Azure cloud storage or Azure Blob, and then it will go deep into Azure Databricks. That essentially goes into why we chose this tool to automate from Snowflake. The client's pain points was they were being charged too much. The process was delaying their integrations with other companies' data, so they needed to essentially make decisions quickly, uh, ingest data quickly. So a good example of their process is they were ingesting 8 to 10 gigs of data per day, and that couldn't be handled. So I was brought in to talk about and to present with them a solutions that how can we manage this 8 to 9 gig files in Parquet uh, and manage them in a pipeline. So that is a use case where we take the data and we convert it into a file that can be read into Databricks.
Hmm.
So understanding Snowflake architecture. So I would at the end of the presentation, I'll go and we'll take a look at Snowflakes, what data that we have. But essentially, we create a database and then we create a schema. A database essentially is the whole where all the data will be housed. The architecture is essentially how that data is ingested within that database. We have schemas for our purposes, bronze, silver, and gold. This is the medallion architecture. What that means is we take raw data, we convert it or transform it in silver, and then we create materialized views or views in gold. So any data analytics person can ping that database and they can create the visualizations in Power BI, Tableau, or any other popular tools that they can access. Uh, and the idea behind the medallion architecture is just to reduce costs in transforming data and how we query data. So a good example is when data is processed on a daily basis, the users will ping that database. So in order to reduce costs, that thing would have to be done a nightly before it is presented to the clients or users during the day. So that would reduce costs for them to essentially query that database. And the way we do it, and it's very popular for the last couple of years, is ELT. So what that means is we extract the data, we load it, and then we transform it. There's popular tools out there that does that efficiently. For our purposes, we've used our transformation pipelines within Databricks to do that process. So all the data that's being copied over from Snowflake to Databricks will be done through a Databricks notebook, and then any store procedures or any scripts that's done within Snowflake or SQL Server that would be transferred over to a Databricks notebook, and it will be converted from their standard, let's say, coding in SQL from Snowflake to NC84 or the standard that is currently being done in Databricks.
Hmm.
And this is the medallion architecture review. So we have the raw ingested data, which is the lower layer, and then we have the silver layer where it's validated, it is transformed, and then the gold layer is essentially where we prepare the data to be created within a view or materialized view. So this is now standard, but there's also other uh, architectures that uses data vault, but essentially that's and fact tables and another. It's essentially a Snowflake type of environment that has been reinvented to be called Data Vault within Databricks, but it's out of scope for our purposes.
Okay, nice. I wasn't really aware of this standard, but that's useful, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lex. What was the question?
Yeah, I wasn't really aware of that medallion architecture, standard, but it's very useful, right? To need to understand the quality of the data.
Yeah, this is if a person is learning about Databricks or has experience in the database world, this is essentially what they're being taught right now.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm taking the Databricks examination, so this is what the companies expect, and this is the standard. Uh, if you work outside of that, let's say small consulting companies or middle-sized consulting, then data vault would be another technique used to essentially build these fact tables or Snowflake, as they call it, uh, data structure or data architectures to essentially build um, these tables to create the pretty much what we would call a data mart. What I noticed when I worked in healthcare, we had transactions, we had insurance information, and then we have patient information, and all of them will be combined to create data mart. So that is an example of a data vault process where we have separate tables that with different topics that will be used to showcase the data mart, where the user will query that data mart, and the data mart will show them the ID, the total transactions, and the total balance of that data. It's just another way of how to show that information within a database.
Yeah.
So the techniques I'll be using in the demo will be Databricks autoloader. What that means is we'll be streaming data to extract from a file location or a Azure blob where the Parquet file is created. And then during the streaming, we'll locate that file and load it and create a table. Within this process, I would not define a schema. The file with the Parquet file already has that summary statistics, and it has the information of the schema to infer and create the table rapidly within the Databricks environment. And we also noticed that within projects, and especially in Adobe, that sometimes new fields come in. So within the Databricks environment, we have these options to enable merge, schema merge. So if a new, um, let's say a new column comes in within the file, the job will not fail, and it will essentially be created to ingest new fields with new data for that particular file that come incoming that day. So now that we discussed the Databricks process, so now we're talking now for our topic today, Azure. We How did we set up Databricks? How did we set up a storage account within the Azure environment to be able to copy data within the Azure blob and then utilize the Azure blob to uh, create checkpoints? So what that means is when a streaming option is processing data, if there's an issue, it has a checkpoint to stop where that data was created. And then we also have a container set up to connect and create folders so we can load the source data and then also create the data tables within that same location, which is called the target. And it's very easy to set up in Databricks. It's very easy to set up Databricks within Azure. Just create environment, be able to um, have the key idea within Azure is having an account, subscription, create a resource, and then launching that Databricks environment, and then being able to log in and create a cluster. And the importance of clusters, it depends on your use case. Um, Single clusters for personal use, you only use one node. But for large data processing projects, and then it will require 4 to 10 workers, and depending um, on the size of the data. For my purposes, when I was creating um, a ETL process or ELT, I needed workers that stand from 10 to 15 to be able to process um, 2 years of data, essentially. And those files were 8 to 9 gigs per day. So
Yeah.
that required a lot of work. And But once that process has been, or that hurdle has been overcome, then be able to use a more moderate or lower scale that
yeah,
cluster. Yeah.
mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have questions, Lex?
Oh, sorry. No, not really. Yeah, interesting to see indeed. Yeah, how the demo will look like. You mentioned the cluster. Yeah, what kind of resources are all involved in that cluster?
So that the cluster is created within the Databricks environment. I'll show you a quick one at the demo stage, but you have the default options to 4 to 5 workers. Um, and so it's a screen that you can go in and create a cluster within Databricks, and depending on the size of the data, you can pick which options correspond to you. For our
Yeah,
purposes, for our demo purpose, I chose the lower end of just one
of course.
one node.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And how did I? Uh, how was I able to transfer data from Snowflake to Databricks? I needed access and authentications to Databricks. So how does that look like? So within Databricks, in order to gain access to your API or CLI or APS in general, you need access tokens. So be able to generate that. You go to the settings of Databricks and you generate a token for how many amount of days. And then once you have it, and you also have the workspace location, which is the URL of your of the workspace that you created, you can access the Databricks CLI to create scopes or secrets to generate credentials that can be not seen within the notebooks, so you don't hard code that, as well as get granting access to notebooks to go to specific locations outside of Databricks to be able to access that data, the resources, the clusters, uh, and to to talk about why this is important is because when you use Azure Data Factory, um, and I could talk about Azure Data Factory at another time, but essentially, when you use the copy or a process to essentially connect Snowflake to a linked account within Databricks, you need access tokens. You need I access management permissions to be granted within these tools to be able to talk to each other. And that is one of the more complex process when trying to have uh, two tools talk to each other, with the intermediate being Azure Data Factory. Uh, but that is a process that I could discuss a later time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
And and essentially, the notebook structures organize the data processing one. So our notebook will showcase one table and then be able to automate that to include different tables. And then that data will be loaded into our Databricks medallion architecture. For our purposes, we'll be copying the data in Silver, and that Silver processes all the data already transformed. And for our purposes, when working with the client, we took all the data already transformed and started loading it into Databricks, and then um, took the stored procedures, converted it, tested it, and converted for data files coming in on a daily purposes. And number 5 is important because this is such an orchestration workflow that you just assign and create a automation process within Databricks to execute this notebook on a cadence, and and within all the code, all the processing written um, within Databricks, it will execute with no issues. You can assign Chrome timer, or you can set up a specific date. Very easy to set up, so it's um, not nothing out of the ordinary within there. But yeah, So yeah, the cluster configuration. So depending on your workload, you assign the appropriate size of workers needed to uh, improve or improve the compute and computer timing of your notebook to be able to execute large scale data processing. And pipeline monitoring, that is included within the workflow. Once created, you have access to uh, the monitor, the logs, and be able to look at the metrics to make sure that the pipeline failures are taken care of. Um, there's also some options to set up to retry uh, unlimited, and that has been recommended by Databricks to do it. As for the CI/CD pipeline, we could use Jenkins or GitHub to do that process if you ever wanted to move into production. So that
Mm.
is what continuous improvement would mean. And now demo.
Yeah.
So Lex, can you see my
Yeah. Yeah. I've just screen this Snowflake. Yeah.
So this is our Snowflake instance. So essentially, you create accounts. When we go here to data, we want to move. We go to this database that we created, and this database is called Retail Data Demo. So we have bronze, gold, and then silver.
Yeah.
And the tables that we are migrating is customers, products, sales transactions, and stores and suppliers. So this has been created and loaded with data. And this is um, the table
Yeah.
structure of the data. But essentially, that's our goal, to move data, customers, products, sales transfer stores uh, to our storage account here. So just to give you a background here, Azure Databricks has been created within this Azure portal. So you create an account, and then you set up to create a resource here, where it gives you the ability to create an Azure environment. This is my um, process where I have my workspace to work within Databricks, do the ETL transformation, connect with other services to load data into raw. And then we have storage accounts. So we have two, but the one that we care about is the retail data demo, ADLS. So this is a storage account that I created. And this is the resources that I assigned. You create and assign your own resource, and you pick the location where you want your data to be housed. I picked East US secondary. So within this environment, we have uh, enabled the hierarchy namespace. So essentially, we have the benefits of not only Azure Blob Storage, but we also have the benefits of ADLS and more robust storage access if we ever want to use the power of ADLS. And activity. And also wanted to highlight the access control IAM. This is the location where you can give roles, assignments to technologists and tools to talk to each other
Yeah.
when you're accessing Azure Data Factory. I want to highlight this because it's not an easy process to set up, but having a knowledge of storage and be able to create a container and leveraging the power of ADLS, you'd be able to um, leverage this tool to copy data within that process.
Mm.
It takes time to load. Uh,
Yeah. 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 That's fine.
yeah. All right, just to go to our demo here. So what I wanted to show you here is in the code. So this is our these are my storage credentials: storage account name, container name, and the storage account keys. Essentially, what I did is I stored this information within Databricks secrets,
Mm.
and by leveraging the power of this Databricks CLI, I'm able to create scopes within the CLI by using Databricks. And a good example is the Databricks secret list. So when I create a scope within the CLI, it's called Azure Blob Data, Blob Storage. I list it here. So essentially it shows me the key name and last updated. So each key name has its own values.
Yeah.
So I'm able to access it. So I can store it within Databricks as Azure location, um, create the scope, store the information, and all I do is essentially um, call it by using the utils.secrets.get, and just call out the name of the scope and the variable which the data is stored, and be able to uh, protect your information and be able to use it to access the Azure Blob storage, any
Yeah.
compromise to your storage to your secrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Would
this
it
will take
be
some time because of the. Go ahead, Lex.
yes, yeah, sorry. Would there be any benefit of storing
Oh,
this kind of
go ahead, Lex.
configuration? Yeah, no worries, no worries. Um, would there indeed be any benefit of storing that kind of configuration in Databricks over using a key vault? Well, yeah, here it's easy at hand, right? This is the
Yeah,
environment. There,
you have that option. You have that option to do that, but for me, I'm very used to using the what's already established within Azure and having that option. Um, and having knowledge to store that information. I use Azure to do that for me, um, and you don't have to like have access to unless the administration gives you access. But you can create your scope and be able to do it within the command line interface at any time. And that's why I prefer this method over going to the Azure Key Vault process. A little complex there, but.
Mhm. Yeah,
But just to talk about this code, essentially storage account name, and but this is essentially creating the location of my Azure Blob Storage, where we have all the um, path that's created. So we have the table delta location, we have the checkpoints, incoming data, and then we have the Snowflake exports. So checkpoints is essentially the file that stores where the data process left off. So it is stored there. Incoming data. So any data that we extract from Snowflake will be stored here. And then table delta location is essentially where the tables will be created. And this is the code to essentially how do we contact Snowflake? So we have Snowflake options. So essentially, we need the URL, the username, the password, the database. So when we looked at the Snowflake instance, our database was retail data demo, and then our schema is silver, and this is what was highlighted here in the process. So now we're just waiting for the clusters to run and be able to uh, process a file. So what we're doing is we're reading data from Snowflake, getting access to Snowflake, and be able to process that data into Databricks.
yeah.
and then I'll show you where the file is located within Azure Blob and see if that file has been copied. Okay, perfect. So it's been created. So let's set up our environment, create access to Azure Blob with the credentials provided. So it'll take some time.
Yeah. Needs to start up.
So what that means, it's been successful. So we have access to the Azure Blob. Now we're going to read data from Snowflake from the products table, and we're going to save that information to our target path. And then we have an error. Let me see. Okay. Let's do this one. What's this one?
Yeah, something got broken there, right?
Yeah, schema mismatch detected with writing. Okay, yeah. As I discussed earlier, we need to set the merge schema to true because a file has already been created within this table. So essentially, I need to enable that process to. So a new file will be a new column will be created. Mm.
Is it running at the moment?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
take a look. Okay, products. Strange. All right. Okay. So we ran the customer's data, and the data has been successfully copied into incoming data. So let's take a look at Azure. So we look at the. Here it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Data copied, and so it was 1055.
Yeah, the 1054, right? Yeah.
Yep. Here it is.
Second button. Yeah.
Perfect. Now we move on to the streaming. So we need to copy this data into a table. So let me talk about a little bit about this. So this is outer loader. So essentially, any files that come in will be saved uh, when a new file comes in or a new process comes in. A file will be saved, and this is a streaming process that will essentially append data and overwrite the information onto the current table.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little context to table. So essentially, this will create a managed table within Databricks. No need for access to Hive or uh, external storage where you can put it into an S3 or a Azure environment. It will be created and managed by Databricks when we just
Yeah.
to table.
Yeah, there you go.
So what this means is I've already streamed the latest file within
Oh,
Databricks, but um, I could add the option skip commits, but essentially it's already been copied. And what I
yeah,
can do is
right there. Yeah,
let me put 100 here, place here. Essentially, we have customer ID to first name to John, and now let me go to here. Let me go to um, let me run this. So we have customer ID, first name, last name, email, and for our purposes, customer ID, first name, last name, email.
yeah,
John Smith, Emily Johnson, John Smith, Emily Johnson. So we were successfully copying this data and creating a managed table within Databricks. But yeah, that's one. So what we could do with this notebook is when we address the uh, different tables, this can be automated in a workflow.
exactly. Yeah,
Create job, task name, workflow, and then you pick the notebook that you want, the workspace, and the path of that notebook, which is essentially what uh, and then you assign a cluster. What we want is a job cluster because the difference between the cluster using within the notebook and a job cluster here in Databricks is when a job runs, the job cluster begins and ends when the job is completed. That is the difference. And then here you can add parameters, but
yeah,
I need now create task. And yeah, that's the easy way to create a job cluster. If you want to configure it, um,
yeah.
what,
In terms
what
of workers and so on. Yeah,
what's important about here is the Spark config. So if you ever want to enable constraints, you want to enable Delta table when loading into when using Databricks, you can enable it here with these options. That that is why it's here to uh, enable options. If you know the power of Databricks, you can um, put these configurations in this locations for advanced users. But for our purposes, just this job cluster is fine as it is as a single user, single node, and then confirm.
Yeah, so very straightforward configuration in this case, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for basic users,
yeah,
it gets complicated when we get additional tasks or if we run in parallel. Um, that is, if you study Databricks, if you run parallel to a job, if one fails, the other one will continue depending on the issues. But overall, I just wanted to demonstrate a easy way to run a connection within Databricks and Snowflake without mounting it, and also without the complications and setup of using um, Azure Factory that requires not only adding permissions or assignments, but just limiting that complications for our audience.
it's yeah, very straightforward, right? How that migration must be done. Uh, Clearly, the input table is the same as the output table, so not many data enrichment, no transformations, but well, yeah, it's at least it's a good way to start that migration anyway, right? From yeah, snowflakes to Databricks.
Once you copy all that data, all the raw data, and then you disconnect from the original source, you already have that process copied within Databricks, and then you move those ingest files into Databricks, and then you cut off Snowflake.
Yeah,
That's one strategy, and then and then you migrate all the transformation scripts into Databricks and do the changes. And sometimes it's not that complicated, and it can be done quickly. It just needs to be validated and confirmed in an environment where you have a dev, and then you have and someone validate that, and then when you approve the data, we compare one to one with Snowflake, and then we move it to production and move on to the next one.
yeah,
So yeah, from my experience, the movement of scripts has been flawless. No big changes from what I've seen.
true. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, clearly data migrations can be much more complicated, yeah, than just copy, yeah, A to B and leave the format and everything the same. But yeah, again, this is a good way to yeah to perform such migration. So that's great to see. Yeah, yeah. So have you run in many at many customers who are doing this kind of migrations? You already mentioned there is a cost perspective, where customers yeah, prefer to move to Databricks over Snowflake.
Yes, I had one customer. They had a limited time period to move to Databricks. They wanted to use DBT, which is essentially a tool that uh, can access the SQL UI and the Databricks UI to do the data transformations. But the lack of knowledge of DBT and the lack of knowledge in Databricks would delay that project. So they need somebody with that experience, which I had, to come in, create those transformation scripts, and
Yeah,
then copy it over quickly and migrate it within 1 month to do it. So that is a heavy lift to integrate not only a tool within those two ecosystems, but being able to know the power, how to use it uh,
true.
efficiently.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah, very clear. Well, yeah, thanks. I think this was yeah, very clear. How you explained everything. Okay. Is there anything you would like to add to what you've done already? And no. Okay.
I
Well,
would say this: when doing data migration, seriously consider training the team
true.
to know the power of the tools, DBT, Databricks, because that will save you costs, save you time, and you'll be able to efficiently migrate data efficiently without concerns. Without that, then you're not able to complete a project of a magnitude
yeah,
in time.
Yeah, that's very true, right? And also, not even just knowing the tooling, but also knowing the data, right? And its meaning. I've been in scenarios where data needed to be moved, and that was on premise, from one system to a newly developed system. And there were, I don't know, maybe 100, 150 tables, something like that. With master data and all kind of just normal
Sometimes projects require people to know data
yeah,
modeling.
and what you're migrating, right? Yeah, the importance of all the elements and understanding
Yeah,
the structure, the data model.
yeah.
Yeah. No, okay. Well, yeah. Again, well, I want to thank you.
That happens later. That happens later in the process to do data.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
Lex, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being with us and explaining this topic indeed to us. Well, you already mentioned that you can also talk about data factory, so that can be also another interesting topic. So yeah, we can be in touch about it and maybe schedule a new session and then a bit more focus on data factory. So that will be interesting as well. So thanks again, and also our audience. Well, I hope that you liked this topic, and we hope to see you in the next one.